All right, welcome back to National Report. With this scoop here from Axios, Trump offering buyouts to all federal workers, potentially paying 8 months out, again, if they agree to leave their post, buying out those that are working from home. Watching it play out and see how this impacts. Again, the big get for this is saving money, which is ultimately what this administration is trying to do with this.
That is the goal. Keep in mind, these folks had been working from home.
Right.
We are long past the COVID-19 pandemic of people working from home. And this is an option if you don't want to have to go back to work and you want to accept the buyout. It's on the table. With us now, Anthony Esposito, founder and CEO of Island Capital Investment, and Pete Sepp is the president of the National Taxpayers Union. Gentlemen, welcome. Thanks for coming on. Anthony, what do you think about this offer on the table? How many federal employees might be taking this up?
So the number that they're expecting is about 10% of federal employees will take the offer. Personally, it's a phenomenal offer. I've been in the private industry my entire career. I've been on Wall Street for almost 30 years. To get an eight-month severance package, for most of whom these people don't even go to work. I think about 6% of federal employees actually report to the office at this point. I think they'll take the offer. I think they should take the offer. And I think it's a very effective way, and a very generous way, by the way, by President Trump and the administration to start to trim some expenses and start to trim some fat from a bloated budget. These people are clearly not even showing up to work. It's time to just move on, trim that fat, start to save, start to move on.
Yeah, this is happening so quickly, again, as you mentioned, up to 10% that it could be a federal workers impacted. Again, very generous, by the way, 8 months of pay for those that were already working from home. You can continue to rake that in. The buyout reportedly could ultimately save taxpayers up to $100 billion a year. That's big. Pete, if you wanted to weigh in on that, but also highlighting the fact, and here's the details of it, that there is a hiring freeze. So it's not like they're going to just pay these people out and then hire a bunch more. The purpose is to get them to agree to it, give them the money, and take the savings.
Yeah, that's the important factor here. The normal attrition rate in the federal government from quits or retirements, what have you, is somewhere between 6 and 8% a year. So the administration is looking to do more than double that. And if they're not replacing them, that would be a sizable reduction in the federal workforce. The other thing they need to look at, though, is the contractor workforce. All of the various companies out there that really aren't private companies. They're totally dependent on government for their money. And that kind of workforce is something like double the size of the 2 million plus federal civilian workforce. That has to be examined next.
Yeah, great point. Not to mention the office space, right? I mean, we're talking about 2 million people who aren't showing up to work. I imagine, Anthony, there's some empty offices.
There's plenty of empty offices and plenty of money to save. I love the idea of the entire reverting back, pulling back from this overspending for office space, for employees, and not just allocating the money somewhere else. Actually put the money in the till and start to pull back on these deficit numbers and start to reduce debt. For those that say that we have a $37 trillion debt level and our deficits are at $1.8 trillion and this isn't big enough to make a difference, every penny makes a difference. Whether it's office space, whether it's salaries, whether it's expenditures to NGOs or nonprofits, the government needs to start to pull back everywhere it can, and it will add up.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. And again, what is it, 10 days into this new administration? So a long way to go to make a dent. Also following this, the Fed meeting today for the first time since President Trump took office. Again, Trump already signaled he wants to lower interest rates. That's the big question. Pete, does that happen? And what do you expect with this new administration?
The odds are that there probably will be another rate cut. Markets are pricing at least 2 rate cuts this year, but here's what they're also pricing in. Fiscal responsibility on the part of the federal government. Are they going to go hog wild with tariffs, which will raise prices on consumers here in the United States? Or are they going to continue using it as a diplomatic tool, which is what they should be doing? Are they going to hit that 3% of GDP deficit target that Secretary Bessent has said needs to happen. If the federal government concentrates on reducing the deficit, keeping taxes and tariffs low, working on regulatory reform, those are going to be important signals that markets want to see in addition to rate cuts.
We've already seen the impact of even the threat of tariffs, especially when it comes to the country of Colombia and President Trump wanting them to accept migrants back. They didn't want the 25% and then 50% tariff. So there was a big difference maker there. Anthony Esposito, Pete Sepp, gentlemen, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, do you